I don't know if you guys have heard this, but apparently art is accessible now. This is a phrase that's been thrown around a lot as a way to justify using AI art, and there seems to be this idea in the minds of those who support AI art that basically art was once this super high, great, inaccessible thing, but now that we have ChatGPT, art is now accessible and anyone can make art. But I find the entire thing somewhat disturbing and sickening. I think really at the core of things there's an idea that I have a problem with, and it is just this, that art is not really accessible, not really. Art is a hard thing, it's a difficult thing to make art, and as a result of that, it will never be truly accessible. Just flat out, I think making anything worthwhile is a difficult freaking thing, and I don't think these people get that. There seems to be this entire obsession with taking things that are difficult and making them accessible to large groups of people. And inherently, I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think that the way it's being gone about is an awful thing. I think that using AI as a way to make things accessible is just wrong. There was a video I did recently, I just made it yesterday actually at the time of recording, but it was called YouTube Wants AI Generated Content, and basically in that video I show off the inspiration tab on the Creator Studio page. And to sum it up very quickly, YouTube will generate outlines for you, they will generate video thumbnails, they will help you come up with ideas, and they will generate prompts for you. And as I talk about in that video, the outlines are so thorough that essentially you could just make a video using the outline and the work is done for you. In essence, I don't actually have to do any work. I don't have to work or write anything. And I think in a lot of ways that is the crux of the issue. Because I think that if you don't have to do anything, is the art actually yours? No, it's not. I'll answer my own freaking question. No, it's not your art. If you write a really good prompt and then it generates art, is that true art? No, you didn't make it. You didn't do anything, so stop kidding yourself. Because as I'm saying, I think there's this obsession with making things accessible, but I think that by its very existence, I just think that art is inaccessible. Art is a difficult thing. I think that creation is a difficult thing. I've talked about this before, but I think that making anything that people will actually want to spend their time engaging with is freaking hard. There's really a lot that goes into making a good piece of art. Because at its core, I think that art should be personal. I think that people who make art, and I don't mean just visual art, but people who make music, who write stuff, people who make videos, I think a lot of the time people have trouble finding their own voice. I think that sometimes people are ashamed of showing off themselves and showing themselves off to their viewers. People are scared of being told they're wrong, people are scared of doing something wrong or failing, but really I think that's just part of life. I think that if you stand for anything, then you're gonna have people who stand against you. And I think that is just a fundamental truth. You can't have everyone like you. And that's something that I've stood by for a long time now, that if everyone likes me, I'm doing something wrong. If everyone agrees with what I'm saying, I'm doing something wrong. And so I think that's how you end up with crappy art, and I don't mean AI art at this point, I mean art that's made by humans. I think that people try to follow trends, or they try to follow in the footsteps of someone else and just copy them. I think that's how you end up with bad records. I think that's how you end up with bad movies, bad books. Because really, I think that creating art is something that can teach you a lot about yourself. Whenever you make a piece of art, whenever you make a video or an album or whatever, there are a multitude of decisions that have to be made. Even with a video like this, where I'm talking in front of a green screen and you might think it's, silly and whatever, even with something like this, there are a multitude of little decisions that I have to make. There are all these little cuts that I have to do. I have to decide what footage I want to put up in the background, and if I want to stick an image up or if I want to stick text up. I have to decide how exactly I color correct footage of myself. I have to decide if I want to put a filter on anything. I have to decide what kind of music goes up. I have to decide how exactly to process my voice. And so just because of all these little decisions, you end up with a video that is uniquely mine. Say what you will about my videos, you might think they suck, but no one else could make them except for me. So I guess that's something, that if they do suck, at least they suck in my own unique way. And not only is the video mine, but I find that as I work on a video or as I work on a piece of writing, as I do whatever, I find out things about myself that I didn't realize. This actually happens a lot with almost every single video, where I'll record something in front of the camera and I'll review the footage and I'll go, actually, I don't know if I agree with this thing that I said. I think that art is so intimately tied with personal growth that the two are inseparably connected. I don't think that you can make good art, I don't think you can make true art unless you're growing as a person. I think that art is hard, and honestly, I think it's okay for it to be difficult to make art. I think it should be difficult to make art, and should may be the wrong word. I'm saying that art should be hard, but I don't know if that's the right way to say it. I think that a more correct way to say it is just that art is hard. It's kind of like climbing Mount Everest, where it's like, yeah, that is hard. That is a difficult thing. Bench pressing your body weight is hard. And you know what? That's just the way it is. And I think that's a pretty good comparison, comparing weightlifting to making art. Because the thing is that whenever you first start working out, It's real freaking hard. I think that whenever I first started bench pressing, I think I could only do like a 20 on each end. And so with working out, it's really freaking hard to put on muscle. You have to be very intentional. You have to eat a lot more calories than you're used to. You have to go to the gym, multiple times a week. You have to push yourself. And that's one thing that people who don't work out don't get about it, is that a lot of it's just a mental game. A lot of it is knowing that you're weak. A lot of it is failing, like just straight up failing and dropping the bar. And honestly, just failing is a part of life. It's a part of growing. And I think that extends over to the creation of art, because whenever you first start making art, it will be flawed. You will have all kinds of mistakes. Lighting is hard, values are hard, perspective is weird and hard. Learning how to draw what you actually see in front of you and not the symbol that's in your head is hard. And really, you just kind of have to master the basics, and that's how you become a good artist. That's how you become capable of doing all these wonderful, amazing things. And so if you're just AI generating art, then you're not learning any of that. You're not doing anything. And quite frankly, that is the biggest thing, is that you're shortchanging yourself. If you have a genuine interest in art, then I don't think that you're generating AI art. So I think that's what irks me about seeing that art is accessible. Because it's like, is art accessible if you're using AI generated art? In my opinion, it's not really any different than watching someone play Dark Souls, because Dark Souls is kind of what I'm describing, where a lot of it's just trial and failure. And whenever you're first starting out, it's really difficult to learn the mechanics of the game and to figure out how exactly things work. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to put in all that time and effort into the game, then you can just watch someone speedrun it. But at the same time, if you're just watching someone play a game and you watch them beat it, you can't say, I did that. You can't say, I beat the game. If you're watching ChatGPT generate a piece of art, then you can't say, I did that. And I think that's the big problem with AI generated art, is it's not the fact that people are doing it, but rather it's the fact that people are generating AI art and they're trying to act like it's on the same level as making something with your hands. It really is discouraging to see people say like, yeah, look at this piece of art I made, when really they didn't do anything. And if you acknowledge that you didn't do crap, then that's whatever. But I mean, quite frankly, if you're an AI artist, then no, you're not. You're not a freaking artist. And I do predict that the day will come when AI will be able to fully generate videos like this one. But the thing is, it's not going to be the same. As I said, there are a billion little decisions that I have to make in each and every video, and no matter how hard you try, AI is not going to be able to make the same decisions as a human being. It might be able to develop its own style, and maybe that could be interesting, I don't know. But it's not going to really be able to replicate things the same way. And I think fundamentally the reason why is because AI can't grow and change, it can't evolve. I'm reminded of a tweet I saw that said that Elon Musk could never write The Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails, but Trent Reznor could make a car that could blow up. And it's a silly joke, but at the same time, I think there's a kernel of truth to it. I don't think that any AI generated music is the same as actual music made by a human being. Even if AI generated art looks good, if it looks decent, I don't think it's going to be able to generate the highs of true human made art. But I think that people can tell whenever music is AI generated, people can tell whenever art is AI generated, usually. It's getting better for sure, but I think that usually people know when something is off about it. But again, as I'm saying, art is not accessible, and I think that's okay. I think it's just a fact of life. To use one more comparison, I think that making AI generated art is a lot like going through college. It's like getting your degree and coming out having learned nothing. If you have nothing to truly be proud of, if you have nothing to show for your efforts, then what's the freaking point? But I think the crux of the issue is just that art is not accessible, and I don't think it can be by its very nature. I don't think that music can be accessible. I don't know much about music. I've made a little bit before in the past, but I actually wanted to try my hand at making something unique and interesting. And I've spent probably a few hours on it already, just trying to make a drum beat that sounds somewhat cool. And I've freaking been failing every single time. And I've gotten so frustrated, and I've walked away, and then like I go through that phase where it's like, should I give up? And it's like, well, no, I don't want to give up. And the reason I don't want to give up is because I want to be able to express myself in this way. And really, I think that's just a natural course of action for learning how to do anything. I think that frustration is just a part of the human experience, especially whenever it comes to the act of creation. And proponents of AI like to say that the only limit with AI is your imagination, but no, it's freaking not. It reminds me a lot of whenever people used to say that about Minecraft. I had a friend who would always say that the only limit of Minecraft is your imagination, and it's like, oh yeah, how about a circle? How about a freaking circle? My mind can imagine a circle, but Minecraft can't do that. And so I think you just kind of have to acknowledge the limits of a piece of software. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having limits. I think everything has limits, but I think it's wrong to act like something doesn't have limits when it clearly does. I think that some people will look at AI generated art and they'll say that it's like training wheels to become an actual artist. but not really. Some people will say that they can't draw, and so for the moment they're using AI generated art in order to make art, and then they're going to try to transfer their skills over to the actual creation of art using their hands. But there's a complete disconnect. And I think that this is one thing that people don't focus on enough, basically, that the creation of art is, for lack of a better word, it's kind of a spiritual process. And that might sound stupid, but I think that at some point we lack the language to describe exactly what making art is. I think that the creation of art and the act of making it is something that is so personal and so intimate that you as a human being will be changed. And so I think that for AI to come along and for people to say that the two things are the same, I just think it's a spit in the eye. I just think it's a spit in the face, basically, to generate a piece of art and to say, look at this, my piece of art with a person with 7 fingers on one hand. It's the same as the piece of art that you took years and years and years to learn how to make. I think it's really just, it's crappy. Because as I'm saying, you don't have to be good at art, and that's okay. I'm not good at art. But because of the fact that I'm not very good at art, that makes me respect the people who have put the time and energy and effort into learning how to make good art. That makes me respect them all the more. So anyways, I have said this before, I'll say this again, and I will keep on saying this. If you're making art using AI, you're not an artist. If you're writing stuff using AI and you're just copy and pasting crap, you're not a freaking writer. If you're having AI generate music for you, then you're not a freaking musician. And it's okay to not be any of these things. You don't have to be any of these things. But what is wrong is putting on a false face. What's wrong is lying and saying that you're something that you're not. Because honestly, it's okay. It's okay to not be an artist. I'm not an artist. But also, I don't claim to be an artist. Because really, if we're being honest, I think that most of these people just need hobbies. I think that people's dopamine receptors are so freaking fried from this fast-paced world that we live in that people are turning to AI because of the fact that making art is hard. Making music is hard, and people don't want to put in the time and effort and energy to learn something, and so as a result they go, how do I do this easier? And it's like, oh, here's a freaking AI program that can just make something for you. But as I'm saying, I think that you're shortchanging yourself in so many ways if you don't actually engage with any of these creative faculties. I know that there are artists, there are actual legit artists who use AI for some projects and stuff like that. But come on, let's be real. If you believe that AI generated art is on par with your actual art, then you're probably a fraud. You're probably not a good artist in the first place if that's the case. Really, as I'm saying, I think that a lot of things just go back to voice. I think that a lot of the creation of art and music and videos and whatever else, literature, I think that a lot of it just is influenced so much by your own personality. You know, obviously there are rules. Obviously in music you have scales and you have keys, and if something is played out of key, then it sounds bad. But I think that the way you play certain things, the way you play certain chords or adjust things, or the way that you play intentionally out of key sometimes, I think all of these go into making a piece of art special. And really, I think that is the core of art. I think the core of art is to make something that only you can make. I think the core of art is to develop your voice and your personality and to do something that only you can do. And I don't think that AI can do that for you. I don't think that it can take that away from you. I don't think that I could do that for you or anyone else can do that for you. I think you have to do it for you. I think that if you want to make a piece of art that is uniquely yours and uniquely your own, you have to be the one to do it, because no one else can do it like you. There are people who can do it better, there are people who can do it worse, but I think that as long as you put your personality into it, no one is going to do it exactly like you. No one has your own unique blend of inspirations and personal circumstances and observations and whatnot. And so really, in closing, I think that AI art is kind of pathetic, not because of its existence, but because of the way that people are trying to say that it's the same thing as a piece of art made by a real human being. And I acknowledge there is crap art, but at the same time, I think that there's very much a difference between AI generated art and a great work. And so this is what I got. Thank you for watching this. I'm gonna go to the gym and lift weights. And so thank you, have a nice day, and goodbye.